My wife cheated on me with her boss. I got revenge. For the last couple of years, my marriage had been on a slow, quiet decline. Lisa just wasn't the same anymore. She didn't seem to want to be around me, didn't want to talk much, didn't want to go anywhere or do anything together. On weekends, even when we were both off, she'd spend all her time in her home office with the door closed, watching shows on her laptop or just sitting in silence. I tried to get her to come out, to go out for lunch, or even just sit on the couch with me and watch a movie, but she always had an excuse. At first, I honestly thought she might be depressed. I brought it up gently, told her I'd noticed she hadn't been herself and that I was there if she needed to talk. She shut that down quick, said she was fine and didn't need me psychoanalyzing her. So I backed off. I didn't want to push. I just kept hoping it was a phase and that we'd find our way back to each other eventually. Then I started noticing little things. Nothing I could point to directly, just small stuff that made my gut twist. She'd be on her phone constantly, but if I walked into the room, she'd lock the screen or flip it face down like clockwork. If I asked what she was watching or who she was texting, she'd either say, "No one," or tell me to stop being nosy. Now, for context, we had this agreement since the beginning of our relationship. No going through each other's phones or social media. She made that a hard boundary early on because of her ex, who apparently used to check all her stuff constantly. I always respected that. Never once went through her phone, never asked for passwords. But now I was starting to feel like that trust had turned me into an idiot. A couple of weeks later, she started mentioning this new friend from work, someone named Jess. Said they'd become close and were going out for drinks or dinner once or twice a week. I didn't push it. Honestly, by that point, pushing anything just led to an argument. If I asked too many questions, she'd go off about how insecure and controlling I was, how I didn't trust her, and how exhausting it was to constantly feel accused. So I stayed quiet. Then came the night she told me she was going to stay over at Jess's place. She said they'd been drinking and it was just easier than driving home. Something about the way she said it just broke something in me. I've been cheated on before. You start to recognize the signs. I didn't confront her. I just decided I needed to know the truth for myself. So the next day, I went out and bought an AirTag. I hid it in the trunk of her car, somewhere she'd never think to look. The next time she told me she was heading to Jess's place, I waited until she left and checked the location. She didn't go to an apartment complex. She went to a house in a quiet neighborhood I didn't recognize. I looked up the address online. It was her boss's house. That's when it all clicked. The sudden distance, the secrecy, the fake friend, all of it. I didn't confront her that night or the night after. I kept tracking her girls' nights and started collecting receipts. I pulled up our phone records through the carrier and saw hundreds of texts and call logs between her and her boss, many of them during the hours she was supposedly working from home. She hadn't just been pulling away, she had been in a full-blown affair under my nose. I reached out to a divorce attorney a close friend had recommended. We met and I laid everything out. Luckily, I had bought our house before the marriage, and we never combined finances beyond a shared grocery card. The lawyer assured me Lisa wouldn't be getting the house. A week later, I was ready to make my move, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of some private confrontation where she could twist the narrative. I wanted the truth to be out there. She worked in a small 2-story office building, the kind where everyone knows everyone and any drama spreads like wildfire. I waited in my car just after her lunch break, saw her pull in, and sure enough, she was walking up to the building next to her boss. They were laughing like everything was perfect. I gave it a few minutes, then walked inside and headed up to the second floor. I spotted her with a group of coworkers in the open office area. Her smile dropped the second she saw me. She asked, "What are you doing here?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'm here to serve you your divorce papers, since you've been cheating on me with your boss." It went dead silent. But what stood out the most was how not surprised her coworkers looked. If anything, they were smirking, like they had all been in on the joke and I'd just found the punchline. Lisa started yelling at me to leave, telling me I had no right to show up at her job. I didn't say another word to her. I just walked past her desk to her boss's cubicle. He was standing now, wide-eyed but silent. I said, "She's all yours now, bud," then turned and walked out. My phone blew up before I even got to the car. Text after text, Lisa calling me a psycho, a disgrace, asking how I could do this to her, how I embarrassed her in front of everyone. I didn't reply. I just drove home with the windows down and felt lighter than I had in years. That night, she came storming in screaming at me, demanding I explain myself. I just told her, "I don't owe you anything. It's over." She tried arguing, but I refused to engage. I was calm. She hated that more than anything. She ended up packing a bag and saying she was going to stay with her sister and that she couldn't be around someone so disgusting. Slammed the door on her way out. And you know what? As I sat alone in that house, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. I started thinking back on our relationship, and it hit me. She had always been like this. The yelling, the emotional blackmail, the way every disagreement became a fight where I had to apologize just to get her to stop screaming. I just accepted it because I thought that was part of being married. That sometimes people get angry or cold and you just ride it out. But this wasn't marriage. This was me clinging to someone who stopped caring a long time ago. Finding out the truth hurt, but getting out, that felt like freedom. I'm not bitter. I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just done. And for the first time in years, I actually feel hopeful about what's next. Wow. I just want to say how incredibly brave you were for how you handled this. I know firsthand how gut-wrenching it is to find out your partner's been cheating. My ex-husband had an affair with one of his coworkers, and the signs were all there, but I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt because I didn't want to believe it. It takes so much strength to trust your instincts, gather proof, and stand your ground like you did. Nobody deserves to be lied to or betrayed like that, especially by someone who promised to be your partner. You stood up for yourself in the best possible way. I hope you continue healing and realize how much more peace and happiness is waiting for you on the other side of all this. You deserve so much better. It sounds to me like you literally just gave up. One vague conversation where she said she was fine and that was enough for you to throw your hands up and stop trying? You barely mention any real effort to communicate or figure out what was actually going on in your marriage. No counseling, no serious talks, just resentment and then full-on spy mode. It honestly sounds like you were more focused on catching her than saving your marriage. If you had put even a fraction of that energy into having an actual conversation where you listened to her, you might have had a chance. But instead, you played detective, gathered your evidence, and waited for your moment to blow it all up in public like it was some kind of a gotcha game. Maybe she gave up first, but from the way you tell it, you didn't fight for her either. You just waited for an excuse to walk away. OP, you have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't give up. I spent years trying to talk to her, to fix things, to understand what was going wrong. I tried being patient, supportive, calm. Every time I brought something up, she'd shut me down, get defensive, or start yelling. It wasn't just one conversation where I asked if she was okay and walked away. It was over and over, and every time ended the same way. I gave everything I had. I showed up for her even when she didn't show up for me. I trusted her. I gave her space when she said she needed it. I gave her love even when she acted like she didn't care. And through all of that, she couldn't even meet me halfway. So no, I didn't just stop trying. I finally realized I was the only one trying at all. Don't worry about that last commenter, OP. They sound like the type of person who cheats on their spouse and then blames their spouse for their own actions. I had an ex who did the exact same thing. He lied about everything, threw me under the bus whenever it suited him, and the second I called him out, he exploded, yelling, acting like I was the one who betrayed him. And then, like clockwork, he had switched to crying and playing the victim, trying to flip the whole thing on me, using manipulation like it was the only way he got through life. I don't know what makes people turn out like that, but some people are just rotten to the core. You did the right thing by walking away. You don't owe anyone an apology for refusing to be treated like that. Update 1 year later. It's been about a year since everything went down, and I figured it was time for an update. The divorce finalized a few months ago. It all went pretty smoothly, mostly because I already owned the house before we got married, so there wasn't much to fight over. I do have to pay her alimony for a year, but honestly, that's a small price to pay for peace of mind. We don't talk at all unless it's about something divorce-related, and even that's rare now. That said, I still hear things through my sister since Lisa still talks to her. Apparently, things haven't exactly gone well for her. After everything blew up at her office, it came out that her boss had been stringing her along the whole time, telling her he'd leave his wife soon. But once it all became public and she got served at work, he completely distanced himself, told her he didn't want drama in his life, and he cut her off. Her coworkers stopped treating her the same after that too. From what I heard, people who used to laugh at her little quirky behavior started avoiding her. She ended up quitting not long after and tried to file for unemployment, but last I heard, she still hasn't been approved. Since then, she shaved her head and got a couple of, let's just say, very unique tattoos. Totally out of character for how she used to be. My sister says she's still not working and is living with family. I don't really care what she's doing anymore, but I won't lie, it's wild how fast it all unraveled for her. As for me, I'm in a much better place. A few months back, I decided to try a niche dating site that focuses on people who are looking for serious, values-based relationships. I figured I had nothing to lose. Shockingly, I met someone almost immediately. We haven't stopped talking since. What's crazy is that she went through almost the exact same situation I did. Her ex-husband cheated on her with someone at work. She gathered the evidence, filed for divorce, and walked away. Turns out, we both joined the site just a few days apart, and her divorce finalized right around the same time mine did. She lives a few states away, but we talk every day, and I'm planning to visit her in the spring. It's still early, but I haven't felt this kind of connection in years. We just get each other. I'm excited, I feel hopeful, and I'm so grateful to everyone who left supportive comments when I posted my story. It really helped more than I can say. And to the people who tried to blame me or say I didn't try hard enough, I just hope you never go through what I did. Life's not perfect, but it's looking up. Love this update, OP. It's honestly no surprise that her life started spiraling after everything came to light. That's what happens when people keep making selfish, destructive choices. They always catch up with you eventually. She thought she could lie, cheat, and manipulate without consequences, but life doesn't work that way. She burned every bridge around her, and now she's living with the fallout. I'm really excited for you and this new woman you've met. It sounds like you two have a real connection, and after everything you've been through, you deserve someone who truly understands and values you. But even if, for whatever reason, this doesn't end up being the one, just know that it doesn't mean you're back at square one. It just means something even better is still ahead. You've already proven how strong you are. Keep moving forward. You've got a lot to look forward to. I get that she hurt you and that you're finally in a better place, and that's good and all. But the way you talk about her now comes off a little cold. If everything you're hearing is true and her life really has fallen apart like that, maybe you're the only person who could actually be there for her in some small way right now. That doesn't mean getting back together or even becoming friends again. But sometimes checking in or showing a little basic kindness can mean a lot when someone's at rock bottom. Yeah, you're paying alimony, and that's good. But how about showing a little compassion for the woman who married you? People mess up sometimes, but they still deserve human decency. OP. Absolutely not. I'm not going to check in on her. I'm not in control of her life, and I'm not responsible for the consequences of her choices. She stopped being my responsibility the moment she chose to betray me. For years, I carried the weight of that relationship alone. I kept trying, kept showing up, kept hoping she'd meet me halfway, and she never did. She was a burden I held onto for too long, and I finally let it go, and it feels incredible. I didn't even realize how heavy it all was until it was gone. When I was with her, I thought being patient and loyal meant sacrificing myself, but it doesn't. Now that I'm on the other side of it, I see how crucial it is to love and respect yourself enough to walk away from people who only drain you. I don't wish her harm, but I'm done carrying things that were never mine to hold in the first place. Letting go was the best decision I've ever made. Update 5 months later. It's hard to believe how far things have come. Meeting my girlfriend in person went better than either of us had imagined. From the moment we saw each other, it just clicked. It didn't feel awkward or forced. It felt like reconnecting with someone I had known my whole life. We spent the week doing everything we had talked about for months. We went on hikes through some beautiful parks near her place. watched a bunch of our favorite fantasy movies, played games in the evening, then crashed early and woke up with the sun to have coffee and take walks around her neighborhood. We're so alike, it's actually kind of funny. We both love nature, love the same movies and shows, and we both like living life slow and peaceful. She's everything I ever wanted in a partner. Kind, warm, honest, grounded. And she tells me all the time that she feels the same way about me. She's always hugging me, kissing me, telling me she loves me. Nobody ever treated me like this in the past, like I was so important to them. I was always the one pouring out the love, and now I get it back, and it feels amazing. Since I work from home and I'm self-employed, I've decided to sell my house and move to her state so we can start fresh together. My family thinks I'm crazy and is telling me that I'm moving way too quickly, but it wasn't even a tough decision. We've both said that we've never been so sure of anything in our lives. After everything we've been through in the last few years, this feels like the reward at the end of the storm. The peace after all the chaos. I don't think I'll be updating again. This feels like the end of the journey. It's been a wild ride since the first time I posted, and I've genuinely been grateful for the support, the kind words, and even the tough comments. It helped me stay grounded through something I never thought I'd go through. Wishing all of you a wonderful life. Don't settle. Don't make excuses for someone who treats you like you're disposable. You do deserve love that's steady, kind, and real. I found it, and I hope you do too. Hey OP, so happy to hear that everything's working out for you both. You mentioned that your family isn't supportive of what you're doing, and that's okay. I also saw comments here telling you that you're moving too quickly and that you'll end up getting hurt. I just wanted to add my 2 cents worth. If it were up to your family, you'd still be married to your ex, trying to make things work. They think they know what's best for you, but only you do. You and her both are taking a risk, but sometimes that's what we do when we love someone. We take a leap of faith and we trust that whatever happens will be for a reason. Good luck, OP. This internet stranger is very proud of you. You know, Karen, there's really nothing worse than being stuck in a relationship with someone who makes you feel like you're not enough.
Right? Like you're giving them your time, your energy, your heart, and all you get back is silence, blame, or worse, betrayal.
And the moment you leave, it might hurt at first, but what's waiting on the other side? Peace, healing, maybe even someone who actually treats you the way you deserve to be treated.
To anyone out there who's going through it, just remember, you don't need to stay stuck. You deserve love that's kind, steady, and real. Never settle for less. Or I'll definitely be speaking to your manager.
Am I the jerk for taking back my tip after the waitress humiliated me in front of everyone? A few nights ago, my girlfriend and I decided to go out for dinner. It had been a long week, and we just wanted something easy and familiar. There's this little Italian restaurant not far from where we live. We've been there maybe half a dozen times. It's not fine dining, but it's nice enough to sit down, order a bottle of wine, and feel like you're doing something special without spending a fortune. When we walked in, it wasn't too busy. A few couples, a small group in the corner, and some older folks near the window. The place smelled like tomato sauce and garlic bread, the kind of smell that makes you hungry even if you weren't before. Our waitress, Samantha, greeted us with a tired half smile. You could tell right away she wasn't having a good night. Her hair was falling out of her bun, and she looked like she was trying to hold it together. I've worked service jobs, so I know that look. She seated us, handed over the menus, and left without saying much. We sat there for a while. It took about 10 minutes before she came back to take our drink order. I asked for a glass of red wine. My girlfriend wanted a mojito. Simple enough. Samantha nodded, didn't write anything down, and disappeared again. 15 minutes later, I got a glass of white wine instead. No mojito. I thought maybe there had been a mix-up, so I reminded her gently when she passed by again. She apologized quickly, said something about the bar being backed up, and promised to fix it. Another 10 minutes passed. The mojito arrived, finally, but it was basically melted ice with mint leaves floating around. I wasn't mad yet, just tired. We came there to relax, and instead it felt like work. But I tried to let it slide. I know bad nights happen. When our food order came, she brought the wrong starter. We had ordered bruschetta, but she brought a bowl of soup. I told her, as nicely as I could, that we hadn't ordered soup. She looked at the slip, sighed, and said, "Right, I'll fix that." It took another 15 minutes. By the time the main course arrived, the food was fine, just cold around the edges, like it had been sitting out for a bit. My girlfriend and I tried to keep the mood light. We joked quietly about how maybe this was Samantha's first night. We even talked about leaving a slightly smaller tip, but not skipping it altogether. Then came dessert time. We were in the mood for something sweet to end the night. I wanted tiramisu, she wanted gelato. Samantha was nowhere in sight. 10 minutes, then 15. She passed by once, carrying plates for another table, and said she'd be right back. She didn't come back. After about 25 minutes, we gave up and asked for the bill. The check came, I paid in cash, and left a 10% tip. Not generous, but not an insult either. Fair, considering how the night had gone. We were just standing up to leave when Samantha came over again. She picked up the cash, glanced down, and frowned. Then she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "Seriously? This is it?" I thought she was joking, but she wasn't smiling. She looked right at me, voice rising. "You know, servers can't pay their rent because of people like you. If you can't tip properly, don't dine out." It was like someone had muted the restaurant. Like every conversation stopped. You could almost hear forks hitting plates. My girlfriend froze in her seat. A couple at a nearby table turned to look. I felt heat crawl up the back of my neck. That mix of embarrassment and disbelief. I kept my voice calm. I just said, "Sorry you feel that way," and turned toward the door. I wasn't about to argue. But then, as we started to walk off, I heard her mutter something behind us. Not quietly either. "Cheapskates." That one did it. I stopped, turned around, and walked right back to the table. My girlfriend grabbed my arm like she thought I was going to yell, but I didn't. I just reached down, picked up the bills, folded them, and put them back in my wallet. Then I looked her in the eye and said, "You don't talk to people like that." The silence that followed was heavy. A man 2 tables over gave a little snort, like he was trying not to laugh. Someone else whispered, "Good for him." Samantha didn't say another word. She just stood there with her notepad pressed against her chest, frozen. We walked out, and the air outside felt cold and weirdly refreshing. My girlfriend looked at me and said, "I think you handled that perfectly." I didn't say much. I was still replaying it in my head, wondering how it even got to that point. Later that night, I told some friends about it. Most of them said I was right to take the tip back. But one friend, who used to wait tables, told me I shouldn't have. He said no matter what, you just walk away. That it looked petty. But I don't see it that way. If someone treats you like you're beneath them for showing basic decency, you don't owe them anything. I wasn't rude. I didn't stiff her. I tipped her for poor service because I know what it's like to have a hard day. But the moment she decided to humiliate me in front of strangers, that's when it stopped being about money. If she had just said something like, "Sorry again for the mix-ups tonight, it's been rough," I probably would have added another 20. But instead, she decided to make a scene. I didn't yell back. I didn't insult her. I just took my money and left. I wasn't trying to ruin her night. I just wasn't going to let someone buy my silence with guilt. Sometimes people forget that customers are human too. We have bad days, tight budgets, and limits on how much disrespect we can absorb before standing up for ourselves. I hope she learned something from it, because I did. So she messes up every part of the service, then lectures the customer on how to tip? That's pretty bold.
Bold? That's Olympic-level entitlement. She practically served him guilt with a side of shame. My girlfriend, who's 28, lied and went to an event that I wanted to go to without me, 30 male, and I don't know what to do. I'm not going to start out with the whole "our relationship is perfect, but blah blah blah" that you usually see on here. I'll admit, this has been one of the hardest relationships I've ever been in. I still very much love her. She's beautiful, strong, driven, successful, and independent. However, my 30 male girlfriend, who's 28, is a dismissive avoidant to the extreme, and it's been causing a lot of issues in our relationship. She's in therapy, but that's mostly focusing on managing her OCD and her eating. She has issues expressing her emotions and needs and struggles with communication, commitment, and compromise as a result. We've been dating a little over a year. Prior to me, her longest relationship was less than 2 months. She usually shuts down and runs from relationships if she feels smothered, if her partner lets her down, or if she feels like she's being criticized. It doesn't take too much for this to happen. She does recognize this, and she's trying to work on it, but it's hard on both of us. Both of us are big theater nerds, and I got to meet her best friends from college for the first time. While there, we went to a show with her friends.
I honestly had a great time. Her grandparents love me, and I got along really well with her friends. There was another show coming up in a few months that both of us have connections to. It was the first musical she ever saw with her grandparents, and I worked on a production in high school. I asked my girlfriend if we could go. I even offered to bring her grandparents and treat them to a nice night out. They don't get out much anymore. Or we could go with her college friends. I was immediately shut down. She said that she didn't really like that show, which she has mentioned before, and she didn't want to see it again. Fine, no big deal. That show was last weekend. We kind of had a fight on Saturday. I was about 15 minutes late picking her up to hang out at a brewery, and she felt really let down. She's broken up with other people for similar reasons and gave the silent treatment all day. Eventually, I got her to open up. We apologized to each other and had a decent evening at home. The next morning, she said that she didn't feel great and wanted to go home to rest. I drove her home and asked if she needed me to stay there with her to take care of her or anything like that. Nope, she just wanted a quiet day to herself. I told her to let me know if she needed anything, and I headed home. I didn't hear from her all day. Even when she's relaxing, we're usually trading memes or Snapchats of our cats, but she wasn't even opening my messages. Earlier that week, she had a migraine so bad that I had to take her to the emergency room, and her sister just had a baby that's been having some health problems. I started to get really worried that something was wrong by late afternoon, so I decided to check her location on Find My Phone. She wasn't at home. She wasn't even in our city. She was just leaving a restaurant and walking to the theater to go see the show that I really wanted to see. I assumed she was with her friends again. The restaurant is a favorite of theirs. It's a nicer restaurant where they would have needed a reservation, and the show is a popular one. Everything would have needed to have been planned well in advance. I'm not worried about her cheating or anything. Her friends are married to each other, and she wouldn't be going with anyone else except maybe her grandparents. I'm just so hurt over everything. I really wouldn't have minded if she had already had plans to go see the show with her friends. I just don't understand why she lied to me about not being willing to go and why she lied to hide what she was doing. I think she just didn't want to explain that she wanted to go with her friends and not me. I don't know how to bring this up to her. She's very sensitive to criticism, and even though I'm hurt and not mad at her, she'll probably take it as an attack. She also just doesn't really like me expressing my feelings to her in general and tends to shut down and withdraw. I'm worried that if I bring this up, she'll just break up and leave to avoid the conversation. She's threatened to do that before on much smaller issues. How can I bring this up without scaring her off? Update. I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. I made my post on Monday, and we had a date planned for Wednesday. I decided I would bring it up then. On Tuesday, she was having a bad day at work, but she didn't really let me know. She texted me about an email that her jerk boss sent her, and I thought my response was appropriately supportive and validating, basically telling the guy off and letting her know she's right to be frustrated. I got a curt, "Is that all you took from that?" back from her. I probably should have thought a bit more, but I was dealing with my own work issues and a migraine, so I lazily just doubled down on my first response, again reiterating that she has every right to be angry. She didn't respond. I didn't double text, but I did reach out via Snapchat and Instagram messages to see if she'd respond there. She didn't open any of my messages. Because I'm always trying to make excuses for her, I assumed she was busy and would respond when she had time. If you couldn't tell from the first post, my girlfriend really struggles with communication. Finally, 4 hours later, she responded with how she didn't feel emotionally supported and needed some space to think about the future of our relationship. I was super confused and asked what was wrong. I got the response, "I just had a really crappy day, and you didn't even bother to call me." I kind of snapped at that a little. I asked why she didn't respond to any of my messages, or why didn't she say, "Hey, I had a really bad day at work and need to hear your voice," or something like that. I pointed out that she never asks me for emotional support, she just acts out until I figure out what she needs or until she gets frustrated and gives me the silent treatment. "I didn't respond because it wouldn't have mattered. I can't always be the one putting in the work." I explained for what felt like the 1,000th time that I can't read her mind. She needs to communicate her needs. She's intentionally avoiding work by refusing to open up and ask for help. I understand that it's really hard for her, but I can't make up for that on my end. I pointed out that I didn't really realize she was having an awful day. I just thought she was dealing with regular work BS. She never tried to clarify how she was feeling or what she needed. "I've been saying I need more effort from you for months, and nothing has changed. This is the exact argument I didn't want to have, and you pushed it." I responded that I desperately want to support her, but she isn't giving me anything to work with. I gave her the space she asked for and told her that I love her. The next morning, she asked me if she could come over after work to talk. After I confirmed, she went back to giving me the silent treatment. I soon found myself blocked on Snapchat and Instagram.
Weirdly enough, it was this that finally made it click for me about how bad I've been treated. I was so starved for emotional connection. She doesn't even like holding hands, let alone cuddling, and was an anxious mess from constantly walking on eggshells. But I'm stubborn, I loved her, and I really wanted things to work, so I was still wanting to talk things out. She's pulled a similar stunt before, and we ended up staying together. She finally came over. We started out going over our communication issues. Her big thing is that she feels that with a compatible partner, everything should come naturally, including knowing when your partner needs something without asking. She can get overwhelmed and just shuts down, and asking for help is also very overwhelming for her. It goes against her need to feel independent and self-sufficient and feeds her fear of getting into a toxic, codependent relationship like her parents. So she feels that this is an appropriate expectation to have. I explain that she's asking me to read her mind, that she's putting all of the emotional labor on me, and that it isn't a realistic or fair expectation to have. She started to change the subject, which is a go-to of hers when she's uncomfortable with the conversation. We jumped around to various issues in our relationship. She randomly said that she didn't feel like she really knew me. I asked her what she meant by that, and she said that she never knows what I'm thinking or feeling, and that I'm too closed off. All false, and definitely projection on her part. It also hit on a deep insecurity that she didn't actually care enough about me to try to get to know me. She barely asks me questions about myself and never really takes an interest in anything I enjoy. I'm the one always trying to get her to talk about her life and interests. Eventually, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told her that she didn't even have to worry about the future of our relationship because I was done. She was shocked. "You're breaking up with me? But we're so close to working this out." No, we weren't. I've been so starved for affection, and it's been destroying my mental health. I just can't do it anymore. She cried and begged for me to reconsider, and honestly, it was really hard for me to say no to her. But I held firm, even as she broke down. I told her that I still love her, but I told her that I need someone who will give me what I need to feel emotionally fulfilled in a relationship. And she hasn't even tried to meet me halfway in that regard. The last thing I told her before she left was that I hope she finds someone who is compatible with her and can give her what she needs without her having to ask. It really sucks that it couldn't have been me. This story really highlights the idea that some people cannot bear the thought of being alone or by themselves. Why else would you put up with so much emotional turmoil when you know how you're being treated?
Imagine you find out your fiancé has been cheating on you with your own mother. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap and come have a listen. Karen and I are already waiting for you.